So sometimes if you want to take action, we want to change our lives, we want to set off in a new direction, we've set ourselves a goal, something we really want to do. The final goal is a long way away, and it just, often we kind of procrastinate. It takes us sort of time to get motivated, and the goal seems so big, we don't know where to start. It can be overwhelming. Think about breaking your goal down and just think about marginal gains. British cycling became very famous. Sir Dave Brailsford talked about breaking things down into small parts just to look for small 1% gains. There's the Japanese philosophy, they call it Kaizen, that lots and lots of small changes on top of each other suddenly ends up with a huge change overall. A while ago, many years ago in my youth, I used to drink tea with lots of sugar. I've probably always drunk a lot of tea, probably too much. A kind of English-Irish sort of background, gallons of tea. So particularly when I was studying, when I was younger. But I always used to have sugar in the tea, and I'd start off with, I'd have 1 teaspoon, and then I'd allow myself like 1 and a little bit, and then kind of 1.5, and then it'd build up to 2, and then I'd kind of get up to 2.5. And at 2.5, I would then stop, and I'd kind of go back to 1. And it tastes horrible for the first couple of cups, but then, I'd get back to 1. When I was about 21, I made the decision it was time to stop putting sugar in my tea. I kind of was working, started to get a little bit heavier, probably was not eating and drinking as healthy as I might have been. So obviously, targeting sugar seemed to be the way I go. And it was incredible, just by taking sugar out of my tea and drinking tea without sugar, I suddenly noticed I lost a couple of pounds very, very easy and very, very quickly. It was quite a small change to make. Again, it's another thing, maybe you cut out bread from your diet. One of these heavy carbs, if you cut those out and swap it in for something healthier, it can have a huge impact. Going back about 6 or 7 years ago, I made quite a big change. I'd always loved breakfast cereals. And I used to buy about 5 or 6 different boxes, mix them all together. I loved it, loved the whole process. I'm even getting excited now talking about how a big jar full of, different types of cereal. It's supposed to be healthy cereal. What I used to find is I'd come out of class at about 10 o'clock and I was absolutely craving food. It was like I felt like I was going to pass out, I was so hungry. What I now realise is it was basically the sugar from the cereal that I'd eaten at about 7 o'clock in the morning had gone through my system. I'd got the sugar rush, glucose level was high, and then suddenly it sort of had a couple of hours, I was buzzing on a high, and then it would come crashing down. So that at 10 o'clock in the morning, I was in a terrible state. So a marginal gain that I introduced then was as heartbreaking as it was, I gave up cereal and switched to having eggs. So I had an egg omelette, started off with just 2 eggs and I moved it up to 3 because you can never get enough eggs. So just 3 eggs cooked as an omelette, salt and pepper, nothing added in. And suddenly I find that I would eat the omelette in the morning and I just came out of class, I was fine. Because the eggs, lots of protein, no sugar, I wouldn't get this spike in my blood sugar level. I wouldn't get this spike, this burst of energy and then come crashing down. It was really quite bizarre. And long term, it's had a huge impact. Again, I noticed I got fitter, lost weight, felt much better. It's just a small margin of gain. I've swapped 1 meal, cereal for breakfast, straight for eggs. And it's a huge impact. Naively as it might sound, I didn't realise how much sugar there was in the cereal. Obviously my mum told me, obviously I didn't listen. I believed the idea that it was healthy breakfast cereal. But swapping to eggs, small marginal gain, huge impact long term.